So this video is for survivors who have had the experience of narcissists weaponizing the mental health system against them. Narcissists can and do weaponize mental hospitals, therapy, any aspect of the mental health system against survivors. And it is a really a painful thing to experience, and we're going to go into it today. Some of the hidden dynamics and manipulation tactics that narcissists use in this sort of mental health weaponization. Narcissists weaponize mental health against others, which, for example, could be, trying to convince you have a diagnosis that you don't have, trying to get you put into mental hospitals literally for diagnoses that you don't have, lying to authorities, that type of thing. But they also weaponize it for themselves, using their mental health diagnoses as scapegoats for their behavior. So we're going to get all into it. Before we begin the video, I want to just make a distinction between victims and narcissists. Like, in this realm, there is a way to truly be a victim of narcissists. Victims do exist. Yes, narcissists play the victim, but victims do exist. So, we've got that out of the way. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm messing up my words. But now that we have that out of the way, narcissists have this way of how do I want to say it? When you start to see through a narcissist, or call out their behavior, or stand up for yourself, have healthy boundaries, narcissists may tell you that you're mentally ill, that you need to seek therapy, that you need to go to a hospital, that there's something wrong with you. And that's a severe form of gaslighting. And it benefits the narcissist because on the outside, it looks like they care about you. Some people find it hard to believe that someone could try to put someone in a mental hospital just to protect their ego. There's this kind of idea of like, oh, well, if they're trying to, get someone in a mental hospital, they must actually need it, because who would be that evil to do that? And it's a comforting thought to think that, no one could be that evil. But if we come into our bodies right now, you are capable of that. I am capable of that. It doesn't mean you and I would do it, but in reality, anyone is capable of doing anything, right? We have free will. That doesn't mean there aren't consequences. That doesn't mean that it's okay, but there is a capability of us in this realm. We have free will. And so one thing about this is that when the narcissist is like constantly telling you that you need therapy, like telling you need to go to a hospital, or especially with therapy, they might constantly be telling you need help. Every time you see through them, every time they abuse you, every time you set a boundary, you need therapy, you need help. What this does to a victim's mind is it's a form of manipulation that attacks your autonomy. So it's a form of control. They're trying to force you into therapy. And the thing about therapy and the mental health system is like, they're trying to force you to do something that otherwise you probably would be open to doing. And in doing so, they create a sort of resistance in your mind where you feel resistant to going to therapy, to seeking professional help that otherwise you would desire and want freely if your autonomy around it wasn't being constantly attacked. And so this is actually calculated by narcissists, a calculated move, by creating that resistance to therapy. On the outside, it appears that they want you to go to therapy, that they want you to go to a mental hospital, but underneath that mask, sorry, there's a lot of ums coming out of my mouth right now. Underneath that mask is actually the desire for your mental health to get worse, right? So they don't actually want you to go to therapy. They don't actually care about your mental health. They want your mental health to get worse. So when they are constantly trying to force you to go to therapy or see a doctor or whatever for something that you know you don't have, you start to build this resistance to actually knowing what to do, right? Making the right choices for you. And it gets really, really sad when we see this type of thing in children in narcissistic family systems, like teenagers or preteens, when especially scapegoated children, they often see more truth than the other roles. When they start to stand up to abusers, abusive family members, and tell the truth, they're often told that, you know, they need to go to a mental hospital, or that they need help and they need therapy, and they're sent to all these therapies, maybe given all these medications. And the really like sinister issue with this is that, in my opinion, in my experience, abusing others actually harms the mental health more than being abused. Abusing others actually harms the mental health more than being abused. But what narcissists do, you know this if you've experienced it, they convince you that you're an abuser. They hand you their guilt, their shame, their powerlessness. And what they're literally doing is giving their victims their consequences. There is consequence to the narcissist's actions, and they are allowed to avoid these consequences. Thunder! They're allowed to avoid these consequences by literally, like energetically, you could imagine this as them handing their victim their guilt. And when the victim consents to that, they say yes. They take on the guilt because they've been conditioned to. It's not really consent, but they take on the guilt. They're actually taking on the narcissist's consequences. So the victim's mental health starts to deteriorate, but the narcissist is actually the one who should be having their mental health deteriorate, right? Like, how do narcissists get away with everything they do and go to work and function? How? It doesn't make sense. It's because they surround themselves with people who take their consequences for them. And so I'm not saying that there's a way to be immune to abuse. There's not. But once you build up your boundaries and your self-trust, your connection to the truth, your knowledge of who you are. No one can tell you who you are because you know who you are. That self-esteem, that security. Even when you do go through traumatic experiences in relationships or at jobs, whatever it is, even when you do go through those experiences, it takes some time to heal, yes, but it doesn't destroy your mental health or your sense of self like it would to a conditioned mind, because you're not taking on their consequences, right? So I hope that makes sense, but this is the really like sad part, is that many victims are seeking treatment, put into treatment for mental health issues that are sort of displaced. And I'm speaking about this on a spiritual level. This is what energy siphoning is, if you've heard of energy siphoning. The narcissist hands you their energy, their consequences, and in return, you hand them your energy. And you see how that works, right? It's like, they're not really siphoning your energy in some cases. It's more like you're taking on their energy, which allows them to not have to process the consequences of the actions that they've been taking. And so I made this video because I want people to know that this is real. It's a thing that actually happens, the weaponization of mental health systems. And from what I've been talking about, we see how the system itself in its current state is kind of easily weaponized when we don't have the knowledge of the spiritual, energetic mechanics of what is going on in the world. Like, genuinely, this is a spiritual world. There are things in the unseen. Our eyeballs only see, like, what's the percentage? A small amount of what is actually happening on this earth. And relationship is a big part of our life experience. Like, we may downplay it. I know I kind of downplay it in my mind, but if you're catching my drift here, like, relationship is the whole point of this life. You know? We want love. We have family. We can't do anything without each other. We're all dependent on each other. We've got grocery stores and semi-trucks and all these things. We all need each other. Relationship is a huge part of this reality. And so yeah, they're trying to force you to go to therapy creates this sort of resistance to actually, like, getting the help that you may need. And additionally, this is why narcissists really hate boundaries. Boundaries on a physical level look like saying no, walking away from a confrontation that isn't healthy, leaving an environment that is toxic. But on a spiritual level, boundaries, your no, is the ability to recognize what is yours versus theirs. Enmeshment is common in narcissism, narcissistic abuse, where narcissists don't have boundaries mentally or spiritually of who is me and who is you. And when a child grows up in this environment where there's no boundaries between me and you, self and other, it affects that child's ability to develop their own boundaries. So when a narcissistic parent tells you who you are and how you're supposed to feel and what you've done wrong, they're doing that from a place of no boundaries. They cannot tell what is theirs and what is yours, what is their responsibility and what is your responsibility. In their minds, they're kind of separated from you. They can't see you as separate. It's kind of paradoxical, but so that's kind of where these consequences come. Then as victims, we become sort of no boundaried as well, where anyone can tell us who we are, what we've done wrong, how we're supposed to feel, and we just kind of take it on. We just feel it. We don't know what constitutes, our responsibility, what we should be guilty for, and what is not ours to be guilty for, what behaviors are not our fault and what behaviors are our fault. So sorry, one moment. With this no boundaries thing, this is why they hate your boundaries. Because if you have boundaries, they cannot give you their emotions, their consequences. And once you start to have those boundaries, develop your sense of self and your self-esteem, that is when you will see narcissists collapse. You will see they will start escalating. The term that I often use is they're off their rocker. They're off their rocker. They're out of control. And what this is what I just shared. You're no longer taking on the consequences that their actions have. You may have to heal a little bit, process some emotions, process the chaos, get your body out of fight or flight after interactions, but you're not taking on the mental instability that they're creating for themselves. When you harm others, you create instability for yourself, and you have to hold that instability if no one takes it. And that's why your boundaries are such a threat to narcissists. That's when they'll start escalating and trying to institutionalize you. Trying to force you into therapy, tell you that you're mentally ill and that you have these diagnoses that you don't have. Because they desperately need to give you their instability. One of the most healing things for survivors to know is what I want you to know is that I firmly believe that we don't need to have these long time limits for healing. Healing takes years. It always takes years from my experience. Because one way to accelerate your healing is to remove all that is not yours from your consciousness, from your energy body, your spiritual body. When you've gone your whole life with people giving you their instability, you have the ability to give it back. You have the ability to remove that instability and call your own energy and your own power back. And in doing so, you don't have to heal from what is not yours. Only what is yours. So healing can become quick, really quick. But the ability to call your power back is a process. I won't go too deep into it now. Oftentimes we can't just declare that we cut the cord or declare that we call our energy back at first, because there's a process of undoing conditioning that needs to happen, and emotional, what is the word? It's like right on the tip of my head. Window of tolerance that has to be developed to be able to recognize the truth. Because the truth is what sets you free from these ties that you have with others. The tie that allows narcissists to give you their consequences and their emotions and use you as supply. Like, you're kind of like a container, like a freaking storage container, where they're like, yep, take this, and they go, next one, take that for me, and hold that for me, and hold that for me. But when you lock up your container, well, they can't put it in anymore. You know? They can't give you their guilt. It's not funny. I don't know. I'm being a little bit silly and goofy, but like this is a really heavy topic. But if I'm giggling for no reason, I just am a giggly person, so I just wanted to let you know that. But anyways. So yeah. And don't underestimate the manipulation power of narcissists. So I don't ever want to put narcissists on this pedestal of like master manipulator, because I won't go too deep into it today, probably next video, but narcissists don't have their own manipulation power or knowledge. Oftentimes they have demons and entity attachments that give them this power and this knowledge. So I don't ever want to put them on a pedestal of like, they're a master manipulator and they're like so good at this. Like, they're not powerful at all. They're weak. Just put it simply, they're weak. But don't underestimate the manipulation ability of these kind of demons and attachments that they have, because what they can do very sneakily is the effects of their abuse can be used to induce symptoms that may look like the diagnosis they're trying to force on you. Right? Like, if they run a smear campaign in your workplace and everyone kind of has a negative opinion about you, and you notice this and you feel it, when you speak about it, you look paranoid. But you're not paranoid. right? Because they've organized this to make you look paranoid by planting seeds of doubt in people and using those smear campaigns, right? They may time their abuse during your hygiene routines to affect your ability to brush your teeth or clean your room. They may attack you with a pattern in one particular room that affects your ability to enter that room and get a task done, whether it's like cooking or cleaning. So to outsiders, it looks like you're paranoid. It looks like you are, your ability to perform basic tasks and functions is declining. Your ability to sleep is declining, and then they can kind of manipulate you into looking like you have this mental illness that they want you to have, that they want to convince others that you have, when really there's this manipulation going on behind the scenes. And I'm going to give a disclaimer here because I don't want to, again, I'm not diagnosing or not diagnosing. There are situations where people are paranoid. There are situations where people's functions are declining, and that is something that needs professional help and professional treatment. But there are also situations where narcissists can manipulate symptoms into you to make you look like you have the diagnosis that they want you to have. And so I want to end this by sharing with you that there is no need to fear this kind of attack that some of us go through, because it's a really, really painful thing. There's no need to fear, because your narcissists can't manipulate everyone. They're messy. And I don't know how to say this. The best thing for you to do is develop the skills to communicate openly and honestly, to understand your own needs and be able to communicate those needs to others and professionals. I think that the best way to get the proper help from professionals is to know yourself. You know? It's to know yourself. Because if you can really explain what's happening truly inside of you and what you're truly experiencing, then you're going to get an accurate reflection back to you, for the most part, from professionals. And I just remembered another part that I wanted to talk about, which was how narcissists weaponize your mental health diagnoses with themselves. Things like ADHD, OCD, depression. The narcissist always will really spread the narrative that mental health is just like a brain imbalance or a chemical imbalance. Personally, I don't believe that's true. Mental health doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? People don't just, develop these mental health illnesses for no reason. There's usually a cause in the environment or in the people or in, like we've been talking about, a narcissist's own actions that cause these mental health issues in people. And so what narcissists really will want to believe, though, is that mental health just happens in a vacuum. It's just a chemical brain imbalance, because that is what allows them to play victim to their own diagnoses. It allows them to use their diagnoses to evade accountability, to get sympathy. And oftentimes, narcissistic people may not have what they claim to have. Just like they may diagnose you with things that you don't have, they kind of can diagnose themselves with things they don't have too, because that's another part of the manipulation, how they may manipulate you is how they also may manipulate themselves. So they'll take actions that portray a specific diagnosis within them to manipulate mental health systems, to manipulate professionals, and to get certain diagnoses or maybe even medications. And that's a real thing that people do. But don't underestimate healthcare workers, because many of them are intelligent, highly intelligent, and there are, I want to say, in any job, there are toxic people and there are healthy people, but there are people who can see through this kind of thing, even if they may not fully understand everything there is about your situation. But yeah, so I hope this video was helpful. It's pretty sad, and